I read 8 books in the month of January. Let's talk about them. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing the 8 books that I read in January. As per usual on my channel, I read a mixture of literary fiction, horror, and some like satire and transgressive fiction. So if you want to hear any of my reviews, just keep on watching. And how I do my wrap-ups is I start with the books I like the least and then work my way up to the books I like the most. So I start with rants and then I end on raves. So I do have some rants to go on as per usual. I'm trying a different filming setup today. I'm just chilling on my couch. I don't know if the lighting looks less snuff filmy from this angle. Let me know. People have been making fun of me that I look like I'm in a snuff film. My apartment actually looks like a snuff film apartment because it's so like gray and dark. And then I just have like a tripod sitting in the middle of the floor. Nothing suspicious going on here, I swear. So I'm gonna start with my one-star book of the month, which was my Patreon book club book pick. I don't know what it is with my Patreon book club. I don't know why I usually end up hating the books. It's traumatizing, honestly. The new Grady Hendrix is our February pick, so I'm really looking forward to that. I hope I don't hate it, but the link for my Patreon is in the description down below. I just love our book club meetings. But for January, Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll was our book club book, and I have seen nothing but high praise for this book. 5 stars all over the internet. I was really looking forward to reading this. It's supposed to be a thriller. It's not. It's literary fiction, okay? But basically it's like somewhat, it's a semi-fictional true crime based on the Ted Bundy case. Am I making sense? It's fiction, but some elements are true and resemble the Ted Bundy case. Okay, so basically we're following this woman, Pamela, and then this woman, Ruth. So Pamela woke up one day, she's in college, and she saw a bunch of her sorority sisters get murdered, or the aftermath. Sorry, my dog is underneath my tripod. She saw the aftermath of these murders of her sorority sisters, and she's basically trying to get justice for them, and we're following her just kind of fighting the justice system and how like no one is believing her. And then we're following this woman, Ruth, who was a victim of this serial killer. So we're kind of flipping back and forth, and the point of this book is that, you know, we shouldn't be focusing on the killer, we should be focusing on the victims. And like, I get it, but at the same time, like, it's giving, this could have been an email. Like, thanks for the insight, Jessica, this could have been an email. Why am I reading a 400-page book about nothing? That's how I felt. I just thought these characters were so boring. I thought this book was boring. And like, yes, they have a right to be boring average women who with normal 9-to-5 jobs and lives, you know, but it was just so fucking boring. It was just a boring ass book about absolutely nothing, and that's why I hated it. It's giving, it could have been an email. It's giving, like, your point is that we should focus on these victims, but then to prove it, you're making us read a 400-page boring-ass novel? Like, where's the logic? I mean, I feel like, in my opinion, there is a reason that people focus on the killers. Morally, ethically, is it right? No, but people want to know the why. People want to know what makes a killer. People want to know about these killers and like what made them so fucked up, and like we're never gonna figure it out because there's no clear-cut explanation or things that these killers have in common, but people are more interested in like that psychology component, I feel. Why am I reading a 400-page book about fucking Pamela driving around town? Like, just shut up. Just shut up. That's how I felt. That's how I felt. I'm sorry. Also, I just feel a little bit weird when authors take inspiration or use like real victims and I don't know, like base things off of real cases. I don't know how I feel about that. I have very mixed feelings about that. This book was not for me. I'm not super into true crime. I'm not into this like detective slow burn mystery. It's giving Law and Order. It's giving courtroom scenes. I'm just, gag me. This is basically everything that I hate in a book. I don't care. We had a really great discussion on Patreon. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people felt very meh about it. And I really liked hearing like all sides of how we felt about this one. And we had a really solid conversation, I feel. And yeah, I really liked the book club discussions for that reason, but oh my god, this one was such a slog for me to get through. My next 1 star was Creep by Emma Van Straten, I think is the author's name. This was an arc that I had for a book that I was so excited to read. It's about this woman who is obsessed with a man. So me. So she's obsessed with this man, and basically she is a housekeeper, and she gets a job from this app, and she is going to this man's house every Wednesday to clean his house or whatever, and she's obsessed with him, but she never met him. So she's like counting his vitamins. She's like, oh, he forgot to take his vitamins today. I'll take them for him. And then she'll like use his toothbrush, like his mouth in my mouth. Like she is unhinged. She's going through his trash, looking at condom wrappers. Like she is completely fucking unhinged. And I was like, this sounds so good. I love unhinged, crazy stalker women, right? No, this book was so overwritten. It was like over the top, trying to be literary in a way where it was so unbelievably overwritten. It was just pages and pages of like unnecessary filler words, unnecessary shit. It was the whole book. The first 80% of the book was this, we're just following this woman as she is daydreaming about meeting this man and them going on a date. Like that was pretty much it. I'm like, when is something exciting going to happen? It's just her in her own little delusional thoughts, which is great and fine and dandy if that's what you want to read, but I was bored out of my mind because it was, like I said, so unnecessary, so overwritten to the point where I could not stand it. And then the last 20% when things started happening, it was very cliche, very like typical unhinged woman, like you kind of know where it's going, and then it just ends, and I was like, okay, that was it. Yeah, would not recommend this one. Not worth it. And my 2-star book was Lost on Me by Veronica Ramo. I have this in a vlog. I'm going to be doing some mood reading vlogs throughout the year. I will leave this vlog linked up above and down below. But yeah, I have a bunch of physical books on my TBR that I'm trying to get through. So I'm going to be doing some mood reading vlogs and just chill vlogs because people wanted me to bring those back. And yeah, now that I'm moved and settled and everything, I can vlog again for you. So this was my 2-star book from that vlog. We were following this woman who grew up in a very controlling environment. This is Italian. It was translated from Italian, and so yeah, we're just following this woman who grew up in Italy with super strict parents that were, you know, her mom was very overbearing and had tons of anxiety, and we're just following her into adulthood and kind of just how she struggled finding herself, and just some of the different things that have happened throughout her childhood, and how she, you know, was like living with a boyfriend after like 1 week to get away from her parents, and just her basically struggling to find herself throughout her life. And the thing that I hated about this book, first of all, each chapter, it was almost like an essay collection, because each chapter, it was just flipping through different timelines, which I hate because it makes it feel like I'm not reading a solid novel. You know what I mean? I like following just like one timeline throughout the book. So this just felt confusing, and then it was very like, hee hee, I'm so funny and quirky. That was what this book was giving, and I fucking hate when lit fic does that. I hate it so much when literary fiction throws in the, here's a serious book about a serious topic, and then we're gonna throw in like, hey, I'm so funny. I fucking hate it. I hate it. And I should have known. Well, I didn't know that on the back there was a blurb about how it's funny. Immediately hilarious and deeply disturbing. Yeah, get a fucking grip. Get a fucking grip, whoever blurbed that. Then I had a 2.5. That is The Invention of Sound by Chuck Palahniuk. His books are so fucking hit or miss for me. This is one of the newer ones from like after 2020, and his newer books have not been working for me. But this one, we're following this woman who basically does the screams for horror movies, and we find out like she takes screams from people who are dying and like uses their screams in movies. So it's like this whole fucked up, sketchy, weird business going on, right? I think that she's murdering people, and then we're following this detective who his daughter is missing, and he's trying to find his daughter. And then eventually these stories intertwine, and you know, it's kind of written, it's written super engaging because it kind of jumps back and forth between these POVs, and throughout the same chapters, it'll be like one paragraph is one person, the next paragraph is another person. So it is a little bit confusing sometimes. Like I had to go back and be like, wait, which POV is this again? So not the best thing, but it does read quicker that way, if that makes sense. But yeah, this one, I really liked the first third. It was super fast-paced, engaging. The next third of this book in the middle started dragging, and then the last third of this book just got really weird and goofy and just felt weird. It just felt weird in the end. And that's how I feel like a lot of his newer books have been. Yeah, this does kind of give like a thriller vibe. So if that's what you're looking for, I'd pick this one up. Not horrible, just not the best Chuck Palahniuk that I've read. Still, Invisible Monsters is my all-time favorite. I really would like to read his like first books, his really old books, because I feel like that's the gold. Okay, that's where the gold is. This one was just kind of like, okay, glad I read it, but no thank you. Then moving into my 3-star book, this was also in my vlog. This is I Must Have You by Joanna Novak. This is a book following 3 different POVs. So we're following a 13-year-old girl with an eating disorder who is an eating disorder coach. So she takes like her classmates as kind of like students and teaches them how to have an eating disorder. And then we're following a 14-year-old girl, which is her former client, who is trying to recover from an eating disorder and like being this girl's friend. And she is sleeping with a 19-year-old boy. And then we're following the 13-year-old mom, who is a teacher and is also sleeping with said 19-year-old boy. And she has a lot of mental illnesses. She has an eating disorder of her own and some drug problems. So yeah, this book in theory has everything that I'm looking for in a book, which sounds so fucked up. What the hell is wrong with me? I love toxic, like horrible characters with mental illness and going through trauma, and just, you know, just unlikable characters doing terrible things and fucking up their lives. That's what I really enjoy in books. But this one, it was okay. I just kind of felt like there wasn't a point to this book. It never got to, there wasn't a lot of plot going on. Not a ton happened. We're following them over the span of 3 days. And it just ended, and I was like, oh, that was it? Like, what exactly was the point to this book, you know? I don't know. Typically when I read literary type books about nothing, about characters, you know, they kind of still give me something, or I find them relatable, or I find them just like engaging somehow, or there's some kind of point or moral to the story, or something that happens that makes me feel like fucked up. And this one, like, nothing that crazy happened. It does take place in 1999. There was a lot of like 90s nostalgia, which I enjoyed. You know, I grew up in the 90s, so there were some things that I enjoyed. I love fucked up, messy characters, but yeah, that's pretty much it. If you can't handle topics like eating disorders and 14-year-olds having sex with 19-year-olds and things of that nature, I would stay away from this one. Also self-harm, but otherwise I would recommend it. It was okay. Then my 4-star book from that vlog was Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. This is like a literary horror, body horror, literary fiction, literary horror. I don't know what you would call this, but we're basically following this woman who, her parents were immigrants from China, and you know, she grew up really poor, and she eventually gets this job offer working at this place called Holistic. So this is a holistic beauty and beauty place. They focus on, you know, natural supplements and all these like beauty procedures and crazy things. Silk eyelash extensions and just weird facial procedures. So she starts working there, and you know, she was really great at playing piano, and we start learning about her parents and how they are in a care home and how she can't afford to, you know, take care of her parents. And so we start learning about her upbringing, and then we start learning about her working at this job as things become more and more sinister and weird and unhinged. I really liked the commentary on beauty and consumerism and capitalism and, you know, these shitty wealthy people who are just so fucking out of touch with reality. There are some cultural things in there. I wasn't sure how I felt about it the first half. I was like, oh, it's okay. There was a lot of piano talk, which I wasn't the biggest fan of, but this book got better and better once we start learning more about Holistic and what's going on there. It got super engaging. I really liked the horror aspects, and yeah, I would highly recommend this one. And I had 2 5-star books in January. No surprise, the first one is Lunar Park by Bret Easton Ellis. This was my last Bret Easton Ellis book that I had to read from his backlist, and I am obsessed. So this is so different than Bret's other books because it is his same style of writing, but completely different. It's like a mash of genres where it's like this kind of mock memoir sort of a thing where we're like following him, and he's writing about himself and how he became some like famous author after Less Than Zero, and then he starts dating this like famous actress, and so we're like following his fake life basically, and you know, all his drug usage and partying, and then he like gets married to this woman and starts a life with her and her kids. And we're following all of this like satire in the beginning, which was absolutely hilarious. But then it kind of turns into like a horror thriller. So we're following him basically living in this house with his family, and weird things start happening in the house, and he thinks these things are connected to his past. He grew up in a very abusive household with his dad, which I think might be true actually. I think that might be based on his real life, but so he like grew up in this abusive household, and then he thinks that things are tying into his father, and there are weird things happening like in the neighborhood. These like boys are going missing, and these murders are taking place, and he's worried that his past has literally come back to haunt him. Literally haunting him. Do you see what I'm trying to do there? Yeah, I loved this one. I love the way that it was set up. Like I said, so different from his other books, but so engaging, hilarious, and then very sad, depressing, bleak in the end. I loved the mixture of genres and emotions, and the things that this had to say kind of about trauma and your past and how your past defines you. Also a lot of commentary about like parenthood and like watching your children grow up, which I I don't relate to at all and never will. But yeah, I just ended up really enjoying this one. I felt empty after reading this, which is exactly how I like to feel when I finish books, because I'm a weirdo. I like the bleak, depressing emptiness in novels, and this one did it for me. I highly, highly recommend. I will say, if you plan on reading some of his other books, especially like American Psycho, oh, he thinks that like someone is pretending to be Patrick Bateman and is murdering people. So it does spoil American Psycho. It also spoils Glamorama and Less Than Zero, I think. It spoils a couple of his books. So I would recommend saving this one for last if you plan on reading his entire backlist. I mean, or you can save the Shards for last because that one is his newest one. But yeah, I would read his other books before this one, but amazing, amazing time. Then, last but not least, if you saw my vlog, my next 5-star was The Delivery Man by Joe McGinnis Jr. This one is following, it's very Bret Easton Ellis coded, reminds me of kind of like a Less Than Zero type vibe. But with a little more plot. So we're following this guy Chase, he's in his 20s, and we're following him and his friends from childhood, from like his teenage years. And basically he's involved with this woman named Marissa who is like staying at this hotel and running this sketchy like teenage call girl prostitution ring. Okay, she's involved in this with her boyfriend, and Chase has a long distance girlfriend that he keeps saying like, yeah, I'm gonna move in with you, I'm gonna move to California. They're in Las Vegas, and that never happens, and he keeps getting wrapped up into Marissa and her bullshit, and we get the sense that he loves Marissa, he has feelings for her, he's always hanging around, he's always helping her out with her sketchy little business that she's doing, right? So that's what this book is following. And it kind of gets more sad and bleak and depressing from there, but it's very empty, very nihilistic. It has that Bret Easton Ellis tone to it, where it's like things don't ever get happy. The characters just remain empty and bleak and fucked up. It's gritty, it's dark, it's you know, lots of drug usage, like I said, sex work, and just this hopeless, I don't know, these hopeless characters that kind of grew up too fast, burned out, and now are just going through a lot of bullshit in their lives. I related a lot to like some of the toxic relationship talk. I loved this book so much. I loved the feelings that it gave me. It gave me this like wild mix of emotions where I just could not put this book down. I could not stop reading it. If you saw my vlog, I just had to finish this book. I loved it so much. At first I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. It does kind of, I don't know, it seems very, like it's kind of difficult to get into in the beginning. Like the characters seem kind of hollow, but then things start getting more and more fleshed out as you read, and you start learning more about like his past and what happened to him. This is a very depressing book, but so well written and so well done, and I highly recommend for any fan of Bret Easton Ellis. Yeah, that is it. Those were the 8 books that I read in the month of January. If you liked any of these, comment down below, let me know, or let me know your favorite book that you read in January, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!